Welcome to this second panel talk that is part of the programming for Op Hand. My name is Stacey Curtis, and I'm the person that came up with this idea. I'm also facilitating this panel talk because I multitask sometimes. And when I give Zoom talks, I welcome people to have their video on and their audio on. It's nice. I like the Zooms where you can hear people's reactions, even if it interrupts sometimes. Who cares? If you have a loud environment all of a sudden, like if an ambulance is going by or your dog starts barking, can you mute yourself then just temporarily until it stops? Hopefully my dog won't start barking. I have 2 dogs. So I've been producing Op Hand from my studio in Lyman, Maine. Op Hand is 9 acts, ACTS. It's a little hard for me to say. Exploring symmetry and entropy. Some of the acts are pre-choreographed, pre-composed, or pre-instructed, while other acts are more spontaneous. The participants receiving the instructions for the acts right before the acts occur. You can access all the programming and all the acts by visiting my website, which is amystaceycurtis.com. And I really appreciate the turnout for this today. That's really awesome. I want to introduce the participants today for the acts 3 through 7. You can see the panel talk for acts 1 and 2 on my website. There's a link there. And the panel talk for acts 8 and 9 is on the 30th. And you'll see advertising for that if you haven't gotten that yet. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce to you the participants, the people that agreed to participate with my acts. Some of them were people that I pre-instructed and pre-choreographed, and other people were more spontaneous, as I said. So I want to introduce what is the word? You know how there's like a prima about principal, the principal participants, the two participants that I spent a lot of time with before a particular act to pre-instruct and rehearse for Act 6. I would like to introduce them first. Patricia Brace, can you wave, Patricia? Oh, and you also have your name. Patricia Brace is a performance artist whose work addresses the relationship between intersectional feminism and social politics through the use of dance, new media, and installation. Patricia's more recent exhibits have been in Brooklyn, New York, Tet Gallery in Berlin, Germany, and most recently at Danforth Gallery, where is Danforth Gallery in Portland? I apologize.
It's University of Maine in Augusta, so Augusta.
Thank you. I apologize for that. I meant to look that up. I have an X here in place of it. No. I didn't do my homework. Okay. Most recently at the Danforth Gallery in Augusta, where she presented Stage, a modular 12 by 12 foot site-specific inverse pyramid installation, which was filmed via live stream camera from above to be temporarily filled with individual performances by herself, peers, and audience members. Meanwhile, she has also been donning and documenting herself in her go-to performance art uniform, connecting her art practice with her daily life in a project called Year-Long Performance. And you can please follow her work on Instagram and other places. The other principal participant, her name is Amanda Painter. Can you wave? Thank you. Amanda Painter is an actress, dancer, singer, astrology consultant, and healer. Amanda has had roles in theater productions such as Sex with Strangers, Moon Over Buffalo, Scorched, and Leonora Rabinowitz, I Love You, as well as in films such as The Notes, The Mushroom Huntress, and The Codename Danger. Amanda is likewise currently doing one-on-one astrology consultations and energetic spiritual clearing using a muscle testing technique. And you can reach her through Facebook, through me. If that interests you, I can connect you to Amanda.
Thanks, Amy.
You're still welcome. And then I would like to introduce the 4 participants, which are more spontaneous. They all got their instructions right before their acts, which was very exciting. I'll introduce Chip first. Chip Barchilon. Am I saying your name, Chip, right? I said that right? Chip Barchilon, can you wave? Hi, Chip.
Hi.
Chip Barchilon is an interdisciplinary artist working in text, drawing, sculpture, and video. Foraging and fairy tales anchor their practice. Barchilon holds a BA in art history from Barnard College and received their MFA from the Maine College of Art in 2020. And then Hannah Bevens, am I saying your name right? Is it
That's
Bevens?
exactly right.
That's so awesome. Hannah Bevens is a transdisciplinary performative artist and educator. One aspect of Hannah's practice is that it fluxes between the physical and digital realms, reflecting the ebb and flow of introspective learning through real and abstract spaces over time. And Martha Fournier, can you wave? Martha! Martha Fournier graduated from Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Clown College, holds an RSA diploma in contemporary circus and physical performance, and a BFA in 2D fine art from Moore College of Art and Design. Martha enjoys bringing color, energy, creativity, movement, whimsy, and laughter to life. And Frances Hildreth. Hi, Frances. Frances Hildreth is a multimedia narrator representing Maine and New Jersey. Her work utilizes video, performance, and absurdism to capture a human experience. Frances earned her undergraduate degree at William Smith Colleges in Geneva, New York, and her graduate degree at the Maine College of Art in Portland, Maine. And if there's time at the end, I want to give all 6 of you a chance to very briefly describe something you're working on right now. We'll see what happens. Okay. Now I'm going to describe my guidelines per act. Per act, I'm going to describe the guidelines, the instructions, the context of the act. Then I'm going to share my screen to share the act. And then I'm going to invite, after we've watched the act freshly, I'm going to invite each participant, invite the participants as a whole to express anything you'd like to share about hearing and learning the instructions for the first time before you did the act, then performing and participating in and of itself, things that happen, things like that. So recollections that you have. It was amazing when the act finished because all 6 of you were talking at the same time. Like as soon as the act finished, you were so excited about what had just happened. It just exploded into this conversation with 6 people, and they were just so excited and talking about all kinds of stuff. So it was a very cool experience after COVID, during COVID of being boxed up, having people over and actually hearing them talk in my studio in person was amazing. So first, Act 3. I invited spontaneous participants to move together as symmetrically as possible, to do what the other does as if looking in a mirror, each pair moving differently. They could make movements as big or small as they wished, so long as they didn't move the chairs.
3, 2, 1.
Just a second.
Oh boy, I'm going on.
Thank you for your patience. Did I successfully stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So now that we've shared that specific act, I would really like to open up to the participants first to talk about anything that comes to mind about, you know, hearing as I gave my instructions to you, or as you were participating, anything that you want to say about your experience, things that happened, things you noticed. What was it like to participate with this? Anyone can start. I'm not going to call on each of you, just whoever wants to say stuff.
I know from my experience, I've done this sort of game with acting exercises, but it'd been a really long time. And I think I'd forgotten like what sort of movement is easiest to follow. And I was so focused on wanting to go slowly so that Patricia, my partner, could like stay with me, that my movements were so slow. I think often she couldn't like see them until they were like really starting to move. And it was just so funny. And there are moments I wanted to like allow us to trade off who was sort of leading the movement. But if I stopped, like she stops, I was like, okay, I guess I have to keep being the more initiating partner. And it was just fascinating to be in our own little world and then to step back and see the whole picture. Just, it's so beautiful. Every time I watch this, I'm so amazed at how all the movements interplay so gorgeously. Like when Patricia and I stand up, it's like there's these hands like holding us up. I'm like, how did that happen?
I know, that's my favorite part.
It was a good exercise in peripheral vision. I felt like I was trying to practice expanding peripheral sight, because I really couldn't see Amanda a lot of the time, and it was like, gosh, I'm blind. So that patience and believing what's kind of fuzzy and on the edges of your vision is what you think you're seeing. So that was really fascinating.
I remember thinking when I was across from Martha that there are definitely times that Martha was like I was following her motions really clearly, and definitely times where I felt like I was initiating motion, but there were also times in between that where I wasn't sure like if I was following or leading, and I thought that was really interesting to experience, especially in such a short time of, I mean, there was only a couple minutes, and it felt like the time really expanded in those moments.
Yeah, I really want to let you all keep going. I had wanted to kind of limit it to 3 minutes, but when it got to 3 minutes, I realized I can't stop it here. Like where it was going was too fantastic. So I let it go on a little longer. I think it was like 5 minutes.
It would be really interesting to see what would happen over the course of like an hour, because one of the things about maintaining eye contact for that long, and peripheral contact too, but really like face-to-face time with someone, that over an hour, you push past that like moment of we're holding eye contact for a really uncomfortable amount of time. And then eventually your physical movements could become even grander maybe.
Yeah, I'm curious if people would be comfortable enough to try things quicker. I didn't know what to expect at all. I was really like that slow movement that you all did. Like I wasn't expecting, I didn't know what to expect. So that was like a really interesting gift, just how slowly and intentionally all of you moved.
I've never done anything like that before. So that was my first experience. And I felt really, like I felt like it was very emotional for me. I don't know why, but I think I mean, you are like kind of giving, like in that trade-off and in that relationship of holding eye contact, like that is such a, like an intense, and what's the word I'm looking for? But it is this sort of like moment where you're like revealing how you're feeling in a way. And I felt like I was communicating to Hannah, like, I need to take things slow and like just, you know, like it was, and yeah, it just felt like there was this conversation happening that was really special.
And it's funny, the balance between when I knew Frances was doing something to take the lead, or it shifted back to me, that was definitely that was a play off of that vulnerability too, about who's willing in that moment.
Yeah, like take the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Or like carry it and like support or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was gonna see if you wanted to speak and then I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Good here. Yeah, it was just a really, beautiful energy exchange and like this kind of give and take, like give and receiving kind of balance, like trying to be harmonious in the moment for me. And yeah, it's definitely mesmerizing watching it all. How, each pair interacting with each other, like really great. Yeah. Cool, very cool to be a part of as well. The mirror exercises, super great.
It was really great to see you all there. I don't know if all of you have spoken yet, but I just wanted to make the comment about that particular piece that struck me is it was the moments when you weren't moving much or moving at all, like you were waiting for each other. You were giving each other space to be still and see who was gonna make the next move, and that it didn't matter that it took a while. Like there was a lot of letting go there and just trusting the whole process. And I thought that was one of my favorite things about that piece, just those moments when you were still. I'm wondering if I might maybe could do one or two questions from the audience at this point about that specific act, if you have any, for the participants or myself. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to Act 4.
Amy, quick question. How did you decide whom to pair with whom, or who to pair with whom?
I didn't, I let them pair up with each other and they chose the spots that they chose. And wasn't that just perfect? How they did, how that worked out?
Definitely.
Just something really perfect about it. Act 4. Act 4, I invited spontaneous participants to count from 1 to 60 without using a clock or timer, to each count out their perception of 1 minute while wearing noise cancellation headphones and facing away from each other. And I had 4 participants do it for this virtual act because I couldn't afford 8 noise cancellation headphones yet. So there were 4. So I'm gonna share my screen again and play Act 4. Okay. Sorry.
One, two, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 40, 46, 41, 47, 42, 48, 43, 49, 44, 50, 45, 51, 52, 53, 41, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 54, 59, 53, 60, 54, 51, 55, 52, 56, 47, 57, 54, 58, 55, 59, 60, 50, 58, 51, 59, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60.
That was Act 4. Do any of the 4 participants want to say anything about their experience with that and what that was like for you? Hear it, like how you reacted or what you thinking when I gave the instructions or while you were participating, anything.
I found that one to be the most vulnerable. I mean, you're wearing noise canceling headphones, and so it was incredibly isolating. And then you're doing this thing where you're representing your understanding of time in a way that's isolated from how we normally measure time, which is with the external world. And then I found out that I was counting so much faster than everyone else. And I realized how much I revealed of myself.
I feel like that brought back like all my math trauma. Like I was like, do I even know how to count to 60? And yeah, like I felt the same way about feeling very vulnerable with the noise canceling. And then I was like, are we supposed to start right now? Did I just make that up? And the whole time I was just like, just keep going. And yeah, there was a lot of, I even was, when I watch it, I like can see the stress in my body. I'm like, wow, girl was stressed.
Interesting. I thought that I was pacing myself to slow down because I would be fast if I weren't trying to slow myself down, and I ended up being like on the slower end, or at some point I ended up at, who knows if I was like at that rate the entire time. Like it would be interesting to see some kind of like consistent marker, but I guess it's interesting to see too that there is no consistent marker in our own perceptions that way. So
Yeah, I think like halfway through, I was like not breathing the way I wanted to be able to, like to keep that consistent kind of thing with the mask on. And I kind of like panicked for a second. I was like, oh no, how am I gonna keep this up and like not skip a number and breathe? And like, and then I was like, wait, am I repeating numbers? Like, I'm like, I can count. You know, just like this dialogue in there, you know, and just trying to like stay consistent. Because I feel like on my own, like if I meditate for like 5 minutes or something, I'm pretty like on time. You know, if I check the time, I'm like, oh yeah, like 5 seconds or so. You know, so I feel like I'm pretty on usually. But this was just, you know, free form, so just going with it. Yeah, so interesting.
This piece for me stemmed from one that I did for my time biennial in 2010, where I invited 99 people to count from 1 to 60 their perception of 1 minute length of time without using a clock. And then I merged all the sound files together so that all 99 people said the word one at the same time. And then because of the various perceptions of that 1 minute, of course, goes into chaos and almost like a white noise until you can hear the slower counters toward the end, more isolated. The average perception of, the shortest perception of 1 minute was 59 seconds. And there was no one that was exactly 1 minute. The average was 1:40. And the longest was over 3.5 minutes.
Wow. So
there was a real spread. When I heard, I feel like Hannah's, though I haven't timed it, was probably the most accurate, just sort of, if you're curious. But I haven't timed it. It's just what it seemed like to me. Does anyone have any questions about this specific act for any of us? Nancy.
Well, it also reminded me of the piece that you did with the metronomes and how, you know, they started, if I remember correctly, they started at going the same, and then they all sort of went their own way because the way I remember the piece, it was talking about how, you know, time is sort of inconsistent, you know, or can be variable to different people. And I certainly find, you know, in my own life that, you know, my sense of time, if I'm not watching some object like my cell phone, is usually way off from the reality. And I was thinking about, you know, that metronome piece because of that. And thinking about how much more relaxed we would all be if we were not bound by our devices.
Yeah.
But how much a part of our culture that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking how interesting it would be if somehow that piece could have involved doing a movement at what you thought was a certain time without seeing each other. Like, you know, if when you thought it was 20 seconds, you made some gesture,
yeah,
you know, and without being able to see each other, you know.
Very cool.
That would have been interesting, or another iteration.
Hal, did you have a question?
Yeah, or a statement. I'm one of these people who love time. I mean, I love it. I love keeping track of it. I love knowing that I know what time it is. I love betting Amanda what time it is. I've done this ever since I was a kid. This one fascinated me. And I mean, you've always done things which has surprised me on the simplicity of it, which provokes insight, and just blew me away on how diverse the perception of time was. And then you add that dimension of adding voice to it, and I'm not shocked at all that everyone was longer, because you have to then translate that into a voice.
Right.
But I did not expect it to be that different for people.
Pretty neat, right?
Incredulous.
So I should probably go to act 5. which involves metronomes, Nancy. Act 5, I invited spontaneous participants to start metronomes simultaneously. The participants moving as symmetrically as possible, each metronome set at the same tempo.
Three, two, one.
Does any of you participants want to say anything about that? I wanted to say that I had, right before the act, I've given them all kinds of instructions to walk spontaneously to the metronomes, symmetrically to the metronomes, gave them the whole choreography, how to bend over and start the metronomes. And then when I watched the result, that I actually edited that out just to the place where they were about to begin the metronomes. It just felt right to do that to me. But I was really glad you got a sense of their symmetrical movement after they started the metronome. You still got a sense of what had happened. And this work is based on the work that Nancy mentioned. I did it first for my sound solo biennial in 2006. I had nine metronomes that I started simultaneously every time they stopped using a tool that I had built, which allowed me to manipulate all the ones myself all at the same time and begin them. And I did it at the same tempo for this piece, 144 beats per minute. Anyway, does any of the participants have anything to say about this particular act, about anything?
One thing, I remember the instruction you gave about like how to move the metronome wand to a certain place, that'd be a click and hold it there, and then at the proper moment, letting go. And I moved my wand and I didn't feel or hear the click. And I thought, oh no, my metronome's gonna be off. It's gonna be wrong because I didn't get the click. Just had to like let it go and hope for the best. And it seemed to be fine. But had a moment of panic at the lack of metronome click.
Yeah.
And also I remember being mesmerized sitting there watching like the pairs of metronomes and the way they would go in sync with each other or out of sync, especially those middle two at the top. We're pretty much like this the entire time, which was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that.
I remember being off the screen and we kind of all sat and like I think a couple people were kind of doing this movement back, and I think that was kind of like there was like a little dance motion that was happening, and then I saw I didn't see anybody else's screen up, but I saw Hannah's screen and you were like doing that, and it's just like I think like that's like a really interesting. I wonder if I know that was our experience because we were part of it, but I wonder if the viewer that wasn't there could look at that and be like, oh, I wonder what they were doing when they left the screen. We're just kind of doing the same thing as the metronome.
It definitely was like a whole different experience being there in person, experiencing it than on the screen. And I really do. This is a virtual vision of our pen, and I really do hope to do the larger scale in-person version where the people are called, coming right down from the audience to become participants and vice versa and stuff. And it really was just really powerful on a lot of different levels to be there, made even more powerful, I think, because we had been so boxed up for so long. To be in real space with real time and real people and real stuff. It's pretty amazing. Okay, I'm gonna move on to Act 6. Act 6. I pre-instructed participants to build a symmetrical installation I had preconceived. The participants moving as symmetrically as possible. I just want to say a little bit about that piece. This 5-act panel talk is probably going to go a little longer than an hour, and I hope if anyone needs to leave, it's totally okay. But this fact to pre-instruct, I hadn't had the choreography totally worked out by the time Amanda, Patricia, and I started working together to figure out how this was going together. I knew what the construction was going to look like, and I felt like I knew what order the pieces should go in, but all the movements, like how do we move to get it there, and then once it's there, how do we move back to make it symmetrical and interesting and have variation. That was very collaborative, where both of them are very steeped in movement in their work. They were able to contribute a lot of different thoughts, like let's turn this way or let's do this. And those two posts come together like this and balance. We were nicknamed those the kissing posts. And when I first thought about it, I had them kind of with their back too while they were doing that. And I realized, you can't really see what they're doing, how hard that is to get them to line up. And I can't remember who, but one of them had the idea to do it from behind. It added so much more dynamics to the piece. And I love those moments when they're getting ready to actually have the post kiss and they both step over at the same time, and the way their legs look add 4 more legs to the piece. I love those moments. I'm really happy with how this piece came out. Does anybody have any questions for, I'm sorry, does Amanda and Patricia have anything they'd like to say about participating with this piece?
Amy made it look so easy when we were moving the objects around. So Amanda and I got there and Amy moved each piece onto the stage one by one, and it was like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then by the time we got to the 9th piece, or how many pieces are there? 18?
9 of each of you have 9.
Yeah, so by the time we got to the 9th, it was like, oh, that's a lot of steps. And the tension of symmetry or perfect mirroring is, that's a lot of pressure. So I take it really seriously. Like I wanted it to be perfect and as mirrored as possible. So yeah, and we were only allowed to perform it once for the video.
Yep, all of the acts were like that. Each act was only performed one time, so it was whatever happened.
Yeah. So
if everything fell, that was gonna be the piece.
Yeah, it was like Patricia said, amazing just how easy Amy made it. And then it's like, oh, we just pick it up. Oh no, you really do have to pick it up exactly how Amy showed, because otherwise you do tweak your back or whatever. And it's been a long time since I've done choreographed dance, though I've done certainly lots of blocking for theater, and definitely would have craved a little more rehearsal time. This was some intricate stuff. And, I realized the first time I watched the video, and actually I knew this as it was happening, that something happened in my mind that often happens the first time I perform something, is that certain things that had been very consistent, all of a sudden, because it's not the thing I'm super focused on at that moment, I do it differently or wrong, quote unquote. So there are a few of those in this video, and I just cringe. I'm like, oh, but I never did it like that any other time. Why did it have to happen in the video? So little moments like that, and of course they're now captured for posterity. But it was so fascinating trying to work through these two amazing women, how to move symmetrically with these heavy, unwieldy objects, and how to not take more steps than were absolutely necessary, or you know, can we get the little V-shaped things set down without getting stuck underneath them? And most of the time we get stuck underneath them. So it got really hard to get out from under them in a graceful way. And but a brilliant challenge. And I never get tired of seeing that finished form come together. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I was thinking about the gesture earlier this morning, and it feels like we're both inside the head of one entity, and
Yeah.
and you're the left side and I'm the right side, and so we're making this entity move together, you know, occupying each side, but that the entity is one, so that you and I, Amanda, are kind of one in Amy's piece. So that I really like the way that the monstrous black spider kind of emerges out of the space, and the action of building the installation. What an honor to build your installation, Amy.
Everybody have any questions or comments? I could take a few. Nancy?
Well, I mean this as a compliment, that when you say, you know, that you are thinking together when you're doing the piece, there's something about you being all in black against this white background, especially in this piece, that makes me think of like how, and I really mean this as a compliment, that how ants work together and they have like one mind. People say, you know, that the hive all has one mind. Like in several of the pieces, it makes me think, because you're all dressed alike, it makes me think of that you're sharing one mind, you know, that you're working as one organism, you know, that happens, you know, throughout the different pieces, but especially with the two of you in this one, to me, it's like you are functioning as left brain, right brain, or however you want to say it, you know, a hive mind doing this. And the piece itself strikes me, when I had seen it, you know, on Facebook as well, it looks like language to me. Like every time I see it constructed, the final piece looks like, you know, well, if I was an alien, that's what looks like language to me, you know. You know, like you're constructing a way to communicate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hal, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, what I loved about it was not how the same it was. It reminded me of a silent movie. So the setup is that they are absolutely mirroring each other. But the moments that are best is when they don't. Yeah. And it adds suspense. When they clunk those pieces together, you know, it's not gonna fall. And there's comedy, and I know she hates this, but when Amanda came out too early, we all know she just came out too early, and it's funny.
Yeah, I was actually more like in the wrong spot, and I had to like readjust and come in again. And I forgot that was in the end. I think I'd repressed it in my memory because it's like such a major gaffe to me. I thought,
but it's such a wonderful little silent movie moment of oops, and it's fun to watch. So as much as everything was, and then when they finally put that last piece together, I mean, because we're watching it, it's not there, and then they get it. You feel like applauding. It's really a wonderful silent movie.
Yeah.
I need to go get food. Thank you so much. My food is ready.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a nice meal.
Thank you.
I was also feeling there was tremendous suspense in this performance, and Amanda and Patricia, you were terrific. But the way that you would set pieces up, and then you had to kind of very carefully walk among them.
Yes.
As if you're doing a gigantic Jenga or something, and then come back out. And then each new thing that got added to the complication of things. And so wondering, is that all going to hold together? Are you going to be able to avoid banging something? And you did it beautifully. I love this act very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought we all did a great job.
What are they made out of?
That's all pine 4x4 that I painted back.
They're
Yeah, so
really
those long ones are pretty heavy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I have to give pretty specific instructions on how to pick them up. Those the third element that went down, which were the two triangles that you saw them kind of lift like this and really squat. When I got those from my carpenter, they had 3 legs and they were longer, and it was what I had designed, and I tried to pick them up. I'm like, they're not going to be able to pick these up. So I had to do some editing, took off one of the legs, so they only had 2 legs, and then I shortened the legs. Holy crap. Like, I thought the 4x4s were going to be a lot lighter, and they weren't, because they were new. I have a whole bunch of 4x4 material at my studio that's just so old that it's light as a feather, and I misjudged, and I'm so glad because it was so much better.
Yeah,
So
I think their heaviness added to the precarity of the fall too. Like if they fell, it would be so loud. And
yeah,
I think their weight really helped make the performance feel like the labor of building this structure. And
yeah, I thought the weight really made it feel like sculpture. It just really added a whole other element to it.
It definitely added to the need for focus and precision for sure.
Excellent. So Act 7, this is the last act we're going to talk about tonight. Act 7, I invited spontaneous participants to unbuild the same symmetrical installation I had preconceived, the participants moving as symmetrically as possible. would any of the participants like to talk about their experience unbuilding what was built, or whatever you want to say about it? I like tell you, I can't remember if I had given you this note or not, but you naturally paired up and alternated yourselves. So you paired up and two of you would go and then you'd put, and then two of you would go and then put. I thought that was really beautiful how you just naturally traded that. And before they participated, I had to kind of give them some safety tips so no one got hurt. So I did explain like the deep squat thing when you're lifting some of the heavier stuff, and I just pointed out some things to watch out for on the ceiling that the tall things would hit, which is why sometimes you'd see someone kind of look up because they were trying to avoid hitting something. It's really cool to watch to see what would happen.
I think it's funny that there's all of that risk involved in both setting up that installation and also dismantling it, but going through it and in my objective of wanting to be as symmetrical as possible, my biggest moment of risk I felt was when Francis and I would turn away from each other and our step would no doubt come out of sync. And I wasn't concerned about things falling at all. I was concerned about our step coming out of sync.
I think this act for me is sort of similar to what you're saying, Hannah, about when we were counting aloud, that this one felt sort of exposing for me in a different way of like really feeling in the instructions a sense of wanting to do it right, or like wanting to remember the order exactly or the exact motions that Amanda and Patricia had done because it was more practice for them and like flowed more for them, and sort of watching like motions that are more apprehensive or tentative and sort of seeing a feeling of wanting that wanting to like do it right, I think was like interesting for me to see, like to participate and then watch later on, especially at this sort of remove in time.
I think it's funny like that I mean, because I also really felt like I wanted it to be in sync, but then when I'm watching it and I want it to mess up, like he left, but because it adds that dialogue and that like it adds like a narration.
看一个他们在这我没有 participate， 我只在听。Yeah.
SP Wang, can you mute yourself? Oh, can I mute her? I'll mute her.
Oh yeah, and yeah. Oh yeah. It was just it was just like such a like, and I think that's why I love the work so much. Is like I think so much in our lives we want things to be perfect, but then we also don't, and there's this like pull there that is really interesting. Like, because I'm like, I don't know if I like how much do I want it to be perfect and how much do I want it to mess up? Like, I'm not sure. But it kind of just does it. Like, and then that's the beautiful natural thing about us, just having our own minds, and you know, it's never going to be what anyone expects. So
I think that tension gets really nicely highlighted by the fact that we're contextualized with these metronomes, which are a machine for counting, right? And when we're counting as humans that are isolated, it just sounds like chaos. But even when metronomes come out of sync, there's a rhythm. That's why I do like this thing, because I'm finding the rhythm, and so they're out of sync, but they're also together in a chorus being like, and it sounds really great. But then we have this tension of like wanting to be perfect, but also wanting the messiness because it's just the rhythm gets to be too much of an annoying hum, I think.
One thing that I appreciate, another thing I appreciated about observing all of you participate with each of the acts was your commitment. When I gave you an instruction and you would go and you perform the actual act, participate in the actual act, the one-time act, none of you stopped, got frustrated or whatever, gave up. You know what I mean? You kept going. The show must go on. When there's a play, when you're in a play or something and you mess up or whatever, you keep going. You don't react. And I just appreciated that how all of you let go and surrendered to the process of it. I thought that was really great. I appreciated that a lot. It was respectful too. You know, like none of you were like, you want me to do what now? What? Which happens sometimes at my interactive exhibits. People come up to me and say, you want me to do what now? Really? You want me to do that? So I appreciated that a lot. Does anyone else have any?
I was gonna say, I think it's one of the benefits of having already been to your installations is I have a pretty good sense of the sorts of things that you do. So I didn't know exactly what I was signing up for, but I knew I was signing up for an Amy Stacey Curtis experience of some kind, which was just fun to say yes to your invitation fairly blindly. And then find out, oh, I'm not really dancing. I'm moving poles around. Okay. and having it will be beautiful and fun. And watching this last act, I was reminded again of a sensation I had watching it live when we were in your garage, which was that, Patricia and I had worked so hard to try and figure out these movements, to get everything in place, and still struggled to stay symmetrical and timed well. And I'm watching the other 4 participants do the undoing, and they just seem to do it so simply and seamlessly with no practice whatsoever. And I feel a little envious of that. As Frances mentioned that, or maybe it was Hannah, that desire for perfection, but also wanting to enjoy the imperfections and just the flow and the spontaneity. But yeah, a little bit of envy at how wonderfully the undoing flowed. It's just really amazing.
I think it's really interesting to hear that balance that Amanda, you experienced, that you're sort of the way that it was choreographed and instructed to us, I think felt, I think is a testament to you, Amy, that we didn't know what we were really signing up for beyond something like an Amy Stacey Curtis experience. And then that the participants experience tension and then ease about these different movements. I really appreciated so much that the clarity of your instruction and the smoothness of that. I know that running a project like that, a million different details can go awry, and I was just amazed. It felt really safe to just do exactly what you asked, because it was so clear to me that it was clear to you what you wanted us to do, and that was really special to get to collaborate with people in person coming out of the pandemic, also to be part of a project that was so smoothly and clearly defined.
Yeah, it made it lovely, didn't it? Lovely.
The orchestration of all the different layers of tape, I was impressed.
Yes. Because there were little marks on the floor for each act, so I would know where to put the chairs, so I wasn't wasting everyone's time getting all the chairs symmetrical. And there's lots like with anything, any installation, there's a lot of forethought. So I appreciate that you recognize that, Chip, and commented on it. It's really awesome.
I remember commenting to Amy as Patricia and I were practicing with the construction, that a lot of what we were doing was very much like the sort of planning and flow of movement that you need to do for set changes within a play. But
Yeah.
for us, like the set change was the performance rather than just the thing to do in between the other bits. So it just added an extra layer of that performance sensation, and the spike marks of tape on the floor after, over a year of not being able to be in a theater working was really just like, this is excellent. This is exciting. It feels like home.
And Amanda taught me what upstage and downstage means. And is this called blocking? Is that what I'm doing? Am I blocking? So I learned a lot of stuff. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Any of you participants, is there anything that you'd like more to say than about something you might be working on right now that you want to share with people really briefly, or did I cover things? Please feel free to share something about what you're working on before we go. And also let people know like how to find you on Instagram and stuff, so we can wherever people should find you. Patricia, would you like to say something about your long performance, where you're at with that?
Yeah, so I'm doing a year-long performance where I wear this outfit that I'm wearing today, and so I had a little white thing on under my black thing to be in Amy's piece, which was really special to break the year-long performance for a moment to participate in the piece. But it was really just an attempt to bridge daily life with being an artist, and I feel like I do a lot of cleaning and domestic stuff or teaching stuff or administrative stuff, and so I guess it's an attempt to be performing all the time, no matter what task I'm doing. So that's the piece I'm working on right now.
I just wanted to make the comment, Patricia. I didn't see you putting the black over your white as a break from your performance. I saw it as parallel to. There was a moment when our performances came together and then continued separately. It was important to me to make sure when I contacted you, asked if you were comfortable with wearing the black over your white, because if you weren't, then I would totally understand. And it was really cool that we came up with that solution. And I love that the performances are happening simultaneously and overlapping.
Yeah, it was cool to be doing two performances at once. whatever that means.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Would anyone else like to share something that you're working on, or an event coming up for you, or anything? Okay.
No, you did a great job doing the bios. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I found all that stuff online, or when I couldn't find it, I asked people to help me. Thank you. I enjoy writing a bio.
I may have my first regular in a theater project coming up in the fall. Someone contacted me about something that I was just starting to rehearse when everything shut down in March of 2020. And so I think I'm on board with it. I'd had a couple questions to ask before I signed back on, but it's not as experimental as this, very much more a straight up play, but still it'll be nice to be working with cool people in a theater.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to me to like how it brings up, like after a year of not doing anything, which is sometimes was difficult, but sometimes was really a relief. That moment of like, what do I want to say yes to now that I've had this extended break? So interesting with that. And as Amy said, I'm starting to work with some new stuff. You can find me on Facebook if you want to check out some of my public posts that have to do with astrology and stuff. Thanks.
You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for coming to this, and